Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 269. Well, hopefully you're still able to walk. You've gotten past that turkey coma and you had a marvelous week. I want to thank you for stopping on by as we crank down to the end of the year. Can you believe it already? Wow. Hey, I want to thank my good friends at Bedford Camera, bedfords.com. Those guys are about to be Santa Claus helpers in a big way with all the gear they've got in stock right now for us to, you could say calmly and quietly and suggestively recommend to our loved ones that we would love to see under the tree. Tell us whether your Christmas wish recipients that go into Bedford's are going to get that 5% Moose coupon on checkout there. And for most, no tax, sales tax, and free shipping. We're all waiting with bated breath to get our Z9s from Bedford. So I imagine those folks will be doubly busy coming here real soon. So thank you, bedfords.com, for sponsoring the Moose Podcast and taking care of our Christmas wishes. Let's get right into this week's episode. Staying warm when it's cold. So I just came back from minus 39. That was the lowest we had. And there were some lessons learned that I want to pass on to you because, hey, it's wintertime. It is time to get out there despite the thermometer and make some really fun images. Now, staying warm when it's cold, there's a number of things you can do. Some are really simple. For example, just drinking something that's hot, that's got sugar in it. What comes to mind? Hot chocolate, of course, will keep your core temperature warm for about 45 minutes after ingesting it. And keeping your core warm keeps your extremities warmer. It's a real simple thing you can do that just helps you stay warm. Other simple things you can, if you're just standing, you're not sitting down somewhere, but actually standing. And by the way, if you are sitting down and it's minus 39, make sure there's no skin touching anything, or else when you stand up, you might not have that skin with you. Anyway, if you're standing, simply just go up and down on your toes. Just stand higher on your toes, go up and down. That simple act not only stretches the back of your calves, does pump blood to your extremities, and that helps you stay warm. So these are some of the basics. Understand that if your body does start to shiver, that's your body telling you the core temperature is dropping and it's shivering, trying to get that same kind of activity going to get you to warm up. So if you get cold enough to start shivering, you need to take that as a sign that your core is dropping and you got to deal with it. So, your body does tell you, besides things start feeling cold, that you need to deal with the situation. Now, if you are out in the cold and there's no wind, it's a whole lot easier than being out in the cold with any breeze, even the slightest whisper. Because once that breeze comes up, it cuts right through us. And that's when you have to really worry about things. So first of all, if you're out in the cold and the wind comes up, you have to make sure you're using proper hand holding. You got to make sure you're using proper long lens technique. That means you've got to have your eye against the camera and you've got to have your hand on the lens barrel. These are metal objects. Depending how cold they are, they can stick, they can fog up. So you got to be careful when you're out working with that if you got your eye, for example, against that camera and you start breathing, that you try to exhale that warm, moist air away from the camera. First of all, to keep it from fogging up. And there is anti-fog eye pieces like the DK17A that would go on many camera bodies from Nikon. There is none, regrettably, for the Z system. But at the same time, your LCDs can fog up. And understand that when it gets really cold, those LCDs sometimes just, hey, they don't want to warm up. They don't want to show anything. At the same time, understand that moisture as it collects on that metal, especially starts getting, minus 10, minus 20, your skin, like your lips and your nose and things, will stick to it. And if you have a mustache, such as myself, your breath will collect on that. Moisture will form there. It'll be ice. As soon as you touch the camera, ice goes to water, and then you can have other issues. Now, electronics and moisture don't get along, especially when it's in a frozen form. So you got to keep all those things in mind. You might want to carry that infamous white towel with you just to keep those things padded dry. Well, let's talk about some real basics, your hands and the cameras. Now, the camera is metal. Some bodies are polycarbonate, but most are some sort of aluminum alloy. And when they get cold, they're like any other metal. When they touch your skin, they can leave a mark, from as severe as frostbite and losing some skin if there's any moisture on it from your breath, to simply just being uncomfortable. How can you deal with that when it comes to your fingers and your hands touching the camera and the lens barrel? Well, the obvious thing is to have something between your skin and that metal, and those are gloves. Now, I did put up my glove annual report the last few weeks, but just because those gloves are listed there doesn't mean you own them, you're scot-free. No. We have to apply some common sense. So first of all, gloves are meant to keep our hands warm. Gloves are not meant to be warmed up by our hands. Now, what do I mean by that? If you have gloves, let's say, for example, you're driving about and your gloves are in your jacket in the back of the car and you're in the front driving, your hands are warm. And then you go back to the back of the car. So your hands have gone from the warm car, gone around outside, gone to the back. You got your gloves. More likely those gloves will be colder, even by if just a few degrees, than your hands. So then your hands have to use energy to warm those gloves before those gloves can do their job and keep your hands warm. This is right off the bat, let's just go from animals, calories in, calories out. If you are trying to use your body heat to first warm up those gloves before they keep your hands warm, it's a losing battle. Because gloves, in order to have that much insulation to do the job, they'll be so bulky that either look like the Pillsbury boy, or you can't even run your camera controls. Now, if you've ever bought a pair of ice climbing gloves, they come with a liner, and then that liner goes in the glove. There's a reason for that. That liner you keep on your hands. And then those ice climbing gloves work best if they are already preheated. Like, for example, you've warmed them up in your room and you've kept them next to your body as you're driving somewhere. Or you put them on hold them open and force the air into them from the car vent, warm air to get them warmed up. Whatever you do, you've got to have the interior warm for them to do their job. Now, a long time ago, this is D2H days, when I was working with Dall sheep, I had a pair of Sorels, and I've had them for many years, climbing up in minus 10 degree temperature. And my big toe and the toe next to it on my right foot had worn up spot in the boot interior insulation. I didn't know it, wasn't aware of it. Just, I don't know, I arched my foot or something when I walk. Well, I end up getting frostbite, very minimal frostbite in those two toes. Now, those toenails have never come back. They're always been goofed up from that experience, whatever frostbite damage it did. The point being is that those gloves were toast, or boots were toast. Like Doc said, as soon as you get rid of them, you have no idea where the fault is, get rid of them. So you want to make sure when you go into extreme temperatures, you have, at the very least, gloves are relatively new, if not new. Fingernails, the way we work our hands, you can wear a little bit thinner spot in the insulation, and boom, you instantly have issues. Now, what about those hand warmers? They're really quite an amazing thing. I've seen many people use them. I don't see many people using them effectively. What does that mean? Well, for example, there are some ice climbing gloves. I use them, for example, that have a zipper on the back of your hand that you put a hand warming pack in there. The theory being it warms up all the veins on top of your gloves so the blood going to your fingertips will be warmer. In theory, that works great. But for what we're doing when we're grabbing, cold metal and going in and out, if we just sat and let that blood circulate, it might help. So those hand warmers, you actually would find out really quickly. Let's say, for example, you're standing on the dike at Bosque on one of those really cold mornings. I mean, that happens. I've been there. And you're just shooting away. Then you just have a big pause. And then you're shooting away and have a big pause. Well, those pauses, you could put your hand in your pockets. And if in your pockets you had the hand warmers and then your gloves were very thin, like just the simple liner, you might have those ice climbing gloves. So that's all you'd have on. The warmth from those hand warmers would go right through that lining glove and warm up your hands. If you had the same hand warmers in your pocket, had the full ice glove on your hand, you could go in there, but the heat would never get through that ice climbing glove to do the job to warm up your hands. So those hand warmers, they shouldn't be touching your skin directly, but boy, just a thinnest of layer between you and those hand warmers, you'd be surprised the difference they would make. Some jackets, when you put your hands in there, depending on the jacket, there's actually nothing of the jacket itself. The pocket has not got any insulation. So that's not going to help warm up those digits. Now, are there different issues with keeping your hands warm? Sure, you could have everything from circulation problems to what? You might have just eaten ice cream like I often do when it's cold. So keep in mind those simple things to keep your feet or your hand warm. Something on your head is real simple. At the very minimal, an earmuff. The maximum, a really thick beanie. Vast majority of your body's temperature does go out your head. So that's all it takes. And a beanie is a whole lot more effective than the hood of a jacket, unless you really cinch that thing down. And then you look like that silly little kid from the Christmas Story who looks like a giant, tick, right? So beanie, simple, takes care of your head. Lastly, there's your feet. Okay, your feet. Latest thing that I have found. Now, I've mentioned and written about the Merrells that I got. They're a zip-up winter boot that have a special sole that when they get colder, little rubber spikes come out so they stick and grab the ice really, really well. Well, a little thing that came to my attention from another one of my friends are these, I guess you could call them a half sock. They're red neoprene. I got them off Amazon. They're just a couple bucks. And they slip over your toes. They go up to about your arch. And they're so simplistic. I'm like, these are so simple. And I love the keep it simple, stupid theory. I bought a pair because it was like $6. And I tried them up in Fairbanks when it was, I'm standing out doing in minus 37 photographing Northern Lights. Those simple little things worked incredibly well. And I thought, well, A, they're going to pop off, or B, they're going to be annoying. At first, they're really tight. They kind of stretch out after a little bit and they fit like a glove. But they're just this, I don't know, maybe 8 millimeter, 10 millimeter of neoprene that goes around your toes. And boy, for such an inexpensive little accessory, they kept my toes, I was toasty warm, even at minus 37. So I was pleased with that. Now, what about camera gear? This is the first time I've taken the Z6 II for extended use in cold weather. And literally, this is not making it up, the camera's on a tripod. I'm out there shooting it. One night I was out there for over 2 hours, had the MB-N11 on there, and it didn't even go through one battery. I was blown away, and it was about 1,200 shots. The second night, it was much colder, by about 6 or 7 degrees, and there's just a whisper of wind. Boy, it cut right through us. So the camera was on a tripod, and yes, I'll admit it, I was in the vehicle with my Tookus toaster going, and I was using SnapBridge to take the pictures. And in that scenario, the camera lasted out there for about 3 hours, and then finally it said, I'm not going to work anymore. It didn't have any cover on it. I just shot. I was thoroughly impressed. So for cold weather, the Z stuff rocks. The thing is that we just need to stay warm when it's cold. These are the basics. Remember, I have that Kelby 1 class that goes through a lot more in depth. The bottom line is that if I can do it, anybody can do it. I know you can do it. Just simple, basic, common sense. Keeping the extremities warm, you'll stay warm, because some of the worst weather does make for some of the best photographs. Remember that as you go out shooting this next week, and to make every click your story.